Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good to be talking with you again. It's the 3rd of November, 2018, and today I want to share some video that we shot earlier, and this involves magnet fishing. So I'd watched some YouTube videos over recent weeks and was intrigued with this idea of fishing with a very powerful magnet. And as I was watching these videos, it occurred to me that we have this old cistern on the place. And this cistern must be over 100 years old, for sure. I have searched around for antique items, old items around this old cistern in the past, and we'd found some things. Nothing particularly interesting, old nails and stuff like that. But I'd never done any looking inside of the cistern, and I thought, well, if there's something interesting in there, then maybe a magnet is the way to find it. So I ordered off of YouTube this fishing magnet, and Jen and Dave and Maddie are over this weekend celebrating Michelle's 65th birthday, and so the magnet arrived earlier in the week, and so here we are at the old cistern. And we are putting this magnet down there to see what we can find at the bottom of the cistern. And as you can see, we've got Maddie tied up with a rope just in case she were to fall in there, would be able to retrieve her. None of us knew how deep this cistern was exactly, although later in this video we actually measure it. And the depth is about 15 feet below ground level, and the whole thing seems to be completely encased in concrete and brick. So anyway, so we got the magnet down the hole. We're trying to adapt a technique here to move the magnet around the bottom of the cistern to see if we can find anything that metallic down there. The water is actually clear, so that there is still water in this cistern. It functions like a cistern. It's still a working cistern, and the water's quite clear, but it's obviously a dark hole and you can't see much down there, but you can watch the magnet descend into the water. So in any case, we are trying to get a technique. The bottom is uneven. There's obviously been some rocks thrown in there over the years, and so it's not a smooth surface there at the bottom, but rather it's deeper in some spots than it is in others, and we speculate that it's because rocks have been thrown in there. Anyway, we all take a turn here using the magnet to fish. Here's Dave, and so Dave is now starting to measure how deep the water is inside the cistern, and depending on where you're at in there, the water's from about 4 to about 6 feet deep in there. So everybody's taking a turn here trying to find something. Maddie's probably the most intrigued individual with this fishing magnet, and so she's operating the magnet now to see what she can find down there. We actually took it to a fishing pond earlier just to get some technique down for trying to find things in bigger bodies of water. And she could toss the magnet pretty good, and she thought it was a lot of fun to toss it and retrieve it and make a big splash and all of that. And so she's already had a little opportunity to work with the magnet and figure out a bit of technique. So she's relatively diligent and keeps her focus here, and she spends a good while at fishing with this thing this morning, and she had a lot of fun doing it. So now we're talking about just how deep this cistern is, and so here's Dave actually measuring with the fishing magnet the depth, and it's at this point where we figure out that from ground level down it's about 15 feet to the bottom of the cistern. So it is deep, and as I said earlier, it's concrete and brick all the way around, and I think on the bottom probably it may be as well, although that I'm less certain of that. But there's certainly something that lines the bottom of this thing. If it's not concrete, then it's bricks or something like that, rocks perhaps. So anyway, we continue our efforts here, mostly in vain. We did pull up one little metallic rock, but literally that's it. That's all that we were able to pull out of the cistern. Here I'm noticing there's some scribbling on this. There's actually some inscription on the concrete around this old cistern. It's just so faint you can't make it out. Maybe there's some technique where you could actually pull out, what is written on there, what's inscribed on there. But it may help date this thing. Anyway, as the afternoon or the morning wears on here, we're starting to look more around the outside of the cistern and start to think about, well, since we're here, maybe, and we can't find anything inside the cistern, maybe we'll start searching outside the cistern. And I've had success with a metal detector down here before. We've been able to find, like I said, nails and stuff like that. But I've really never spent a significant amount of time around here. So here I am just thumping around with a fishing magnet, trying to see if I can pull up a nail or something like that. Anyway, as we're thinking about this, we are eventually hitting upon the idea what we need is a metal detector. So here Dave is going to get ready to run back to the shop with four-wheeler and get the metal detector. He has the foresight to untie Maddie so that he doesn't drag her off, but he's going to go get the metal detector, and we'll spend then probably the next 2 or 3 hours digging around this old cistern, and then we also go over to a pond in this same pasture that was once used as a dump site. And so at these two locations, we spend considerable time with the metal detector. And so I'm not going to show you what we found over the years with the metal detector, as well as what our big find was for today. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm just going to show you not only what we found earlier today, but I'm going to also show you the most significant things we found on the ranch since we've owned it. So today, Jennifer actually found this silver plated spoon. And it's clearly old. I don't know whether it's 20th century, early 20th century, or sometime in the 19th century. Well, we'll try to figure it out. But it's clearly an old spoon. There's nothing at all that indicates this is any recent vintage whatsoever. There is some scribbling on the back, but we can't quite make it out yet. But that may be the most intriguing thing we found. Now, when I was disking out in the pasture a few years ago, I came across this. I actually hit it with the disc, and that may explain why it's bent. But this is an old drill bit. You put a wood handle here through the top of it to get the power to turn it. But it's a very large diameter drill bit. It's obviously quite long. And again, I don't know what vintage this is, but it's clearly old. So I don't know whether this would be 19th century or maybe early 20th century, but it's an intriguing find. Now Michelle found this double-bitted axe, and I don't know, maybe this is the most intriguing thing we found out here. But she found it near actually in a row of trees, and it was just laying exposed there. Obviously, there's no semblance of a handle or anything. And it's all filled in with dirt and rocks and so forth. But it's a really cool old axe, and it has to be very, very old just for it to be this rusted away. So much of it has just been worn away by time. But it's again, I think maybe this is the coolest thing. This or the spoon for me is probably the coolest thing. Now, Michelle found this item about 300 yards from the old cistern. There is a stock pond, and in 2011 we had that stock pond dug out. And now, as the rains have come in recent years, certainly in recent months I should say, it starts to wash away some of the fill. And as that washes away, it starts to expose stuff that was in this old dump site. So this was a dump site before it was a stock pond, or maybe they dumped stuff in it while it was a stock pond. I'm not sure, but it's an old flat iron. It's missing the handle, but if you put a new handle on that, Michelle could be using that even today. So it's really cool. And then the last thing, Michelle and Maddie found this a few weeks ago. It's a horseshoe. So this was found in the same location that we found, or where she found the iron. And so we searched back there again today as well, and we found some cool stuff, some pottery pieces and some things like that. but nothing nothing quite as substantial as what I think these are the key finds on the place that we've had. So just one more thing that we found on the place that I'll share with you.
Bad girl.
Come here, Gracie. Come here. Come here. Come over here and see me. Come on, you silly kitty. Come over here. Come over here. What are you doing over there? Hmm? Come here and see me. Well, come here.